Hey everyone, this is Seth, and in this video I'm going to show you how to generate lists with a service here called RealQuest Professional, which is a platform from CoreLogic. And RealQuest is a service that I've heard about on and off for a while now, and I've always kind of wondered how it works. So in case you are interested in using this service, I wanted to just give you an inside look at what the platform looks like, how you generate lists, how everything functions and all that. So if you got a few minutes, I'll take you through the process of generating and pulling a list right now. And this particular subscription is called the starter package, and it starts at $150 a month, at least at the time of this recording it does. And with the starter package, you only get access to one county. So pretty much all the lists you pull can only be from that county and nowhere else. There are some more expensive packages that you can get for $225 a month or $275 a month. And with those higher level subscriptions, you can pull lists from anywhere in the country. So you're not just, locked to a single county. So once you are logged in, and by the way, I have a separate video explaining how to research properties. That's a whole other topic. If you want to check that out, I'll have a link to that below. But for the purpose of pulling lists, you would go up here to where it says custom and click on that. And then this is where you start to nail down the geography and all the specifics of the types of properties and property owners that you want to show up on your list, on the end product. So one thing that I actually thought was really, really nice about RealQuest that I didn't see in most of the other data services out there was the ability to see how current and how recent the data was pulled from the county. And just to kind of give you an idea, they're not all the same. And as you'll see, if you search in enough counties, you'll eventually come across some where the data is like really, really old. If the data is old, you're going to want to know about it so that you'll know whether or not you can trust the information. Especially when it comes to things like direct mail, we're going to be spending, some pretty sizable chunks of money putting together our mail pieces, downloading these lists, and sending out mail to hundreds, if not thousands of people. And if we're going to be spending that kind of money, we want to be very, very, very sure that the information we're using is actually accurate and reliable and current. So just for example, if we look here at Sheboygan County, Wisconsin, this is one I just kind of pulled up at random. We click here where it says latest recording date, and this tells us it was last updated on January 28, 2016. And as I'm recording this, it is February 2, 2016. And that tells us that this information is pretty current. It wasn't necessarily updated last night, but it is current within the past week. And when I look at this kind of information, I generally want it to be dated sometime within the past month or so at the most. And just to give you some examples of what you'll find eventually if you're doing this long enough, I actually did some searching and I tried to find some counties that were older. And I did come across a few. If we go up here to like Michigan, for example, in Iron County, and if we see the last recording date for that one was last recorded on May 20 of 2013. And that's something I would definitely want to be aware of before I got my list and spent hundreds or thousands of dollars sending out mail to a bunch of recipients who may or may not live where they did, 3 years ago. So that's pretty important. I will say that I did quite a bit of searching in like several different counties within this RealQuest system, trying to find any that would be like really, really old. And I gotta say, pretty much like 90% of them were very, very current. There were a couple that were like way back there. Like I think one other example was in Chippewa County in Michigan, and that was dated way back in 2004. And that was pretty much the worst one I found. But by and large, like just for example, I'll pick another one at random here. Let's go to North Carolina. Let's put this one. As you'll see, dated 1/22/2016. That's within a couple weeks old. Just pick another one at random here. Ohio. Let's go to Athens County. That one's dated 1/25/2016. So, as you'll see, by and large, they're all going to be pretty current, but occasionally you will come across ones that are pretty old. And the only real reason I'm pointing this out is just to show you that I personally just appreciated the transparency of the RealQuest system, just the fact that it allows you to see that at all. So anyway, with that said, let's go to the county that we're going to pull our list from, which is in California. And we're going to do San Diego County. And then before we go any further, let's just check the last recording date, 2/1/2016. So that's a day old. It's Pretty darn good. And then once we've got our geographic area nailed down, we are going to start determining what specific types of properties we're looking for. And in order to do this right, it's really important that you understand specifically what kind of properties you want to show up on this list. Once you understand what you're looking for, it's kind of just a matter of looking through each one of these things and using your head to determine what types of criteria are going to cause that specific property type to show up on your list. So just to show you an example, I'm going to try to pull a vacant land list. And if I wanted to do that, I would just start scrolling through these different things and trying to find all the ways that I could start narrowing down vacant land. One clever little way we can do this is by clicking on this one right here, the improved percentage. And we're basically saying that we want the improved value to be everything from $0 to $0. And essentially what that means is that when we're talking about improvements or structures or houses or barns or anything that's actually built on the property, we want that value to be 0. So in other words, nothing is built on the property. It's just the vacant land and nothing else. So we're going to add this criteria to the list. And then another one we're going to do is we're going to scroll down to where it says land value. And for this particular item, we're just going to put the value range of the properties that we're looking for. So for example, if we only wanted to have huge tracts of land that were worth, $1 million to $10 million, we would go like this. And just speaking from experience, it is extremely rare that I ever come across properties like that. And even if I did, those are not the kinds I'm looking for. So in my case, I would put a range more like 0 to 100,000. And then we can add this to the list. The next thing we're going to do is go down to lot acreage, and we're going to specify the sizes of the properties that we want to have. And I'm going to say everything from 1 acre to 100 acres. And then we will add that. And then lastly, we're going to go down to land use. Click on this, and then this is where we specify all the types of properties that we're looking for. And then given that we're looking specifically for land, I'm just going to go through all these things and highlight anything that appears as though it's land to me. It's that simple. So I'll click on all of the following. And as you can see, these are just some examples. If I wanted to, for instance, only find commercial vacant land, then I would basically delete all of these, and then I would go back to land use, and I would click on things like this, just like that. So it's really up to you. Again, it just all comes back to what specific types of properties and property owners you want on your list, and then how to communicate that through this filtering system. And as I was using this system, the only thing I saw that was notably missing from this filtering criteria was the tax default or tax delinquent data. I did not see any way in here that I could specify only the properties that are currently delinquent on their property taxes. And it's probably because that's kind of a tough criteria to include in these types of services, because many counties out there don't even make that information available. But with that being said, I know that there are other data services out there who do have that info available in certain counties, and I did not see that anywhere here in RealQuest. So just take note of that. If that's something that you need in your lists, you're probably not going to find it here with RealQuest. But with that said, all you got to do once you have your criteria selected, whatever that criteria is you go down here and you click Submit Request. And as you can see, there are quite a few records in San Diego County that fall under that criteria. And I don't need nearly that many. So I'm actually going to remove all. And then I'm going to go back. And just in the interest of generating a smaller, cheaper list, just so I can show you what the lists look like, I'm going to select some slightly different criteria just to narrow it down a little bit. So let's click on these. Okay, now 109 records, that's much better. I'm just going to go here and click Continue now. And this page just shows us what is going to show up on our list, what kinds of criteria on each property, how much the list is going to cost, $21.80. It's not bad. So we'll go ahead and click next. And it looks like if we want to, we can remove items from this list if that's important to us. Since it doesn't really make a huge difference in the price in my case, I'm just going to leave it all there because I can just delete it later on if I want to. And then we'll go ahead and click next. One of the cool things about RealQuest is that they can actually print the mailing labels for you if you're somebody who's doing an in-house mailing and you're not using a service like Click-to-Mail. Personally, that's not the way I run my business, and I don't really ever intend to, but if that's you, you do have this option as part of the package with RealQuest, so just keep that in mind. So I'm just going to go up here and uncheck this because I'm not going to get labels, and then I will click next, and then here we go. This just kind of summarizes everything and what the price is going to be. Go ahead and click accept. And then there we go. We can go ahead and download this. So then we can go ahead and download this in CSV format. And then there we go. Let's go ahead and click on this Excel file and see what it looks like. And here we have it. This is pretty much the format that I would expect to see it in. As you can see, there's pretty much all the data you could ever want, perfectly organized. All you'd have to do is really just start highlighting and deleting things at this point so that you can get it organized and ready to upload to Click-to-Mail or print labels or whatever it is you're trying to do. And that's pretty much all there is to it. So again, it's a pretty nice service. Definitely not the cheapest option out there, but there are certainly some nice flexible filtering parameters and other tools that you can put to work if you're a subscriber to this service. And just so you know, I am not affiliated with CoreLogic or RealQuest in any way, so it really doesn't make any difference to me whether or not you use this. I just wanted to make you aware of this option in the market. If you're in the real estate business and if you need direct mail lists like this, RealQuest is a solid option out there that you can use, and that's how it works. It's as simple as that. So hopefully you found that helpful. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video, and I wish you all the best in your real estate business.